So I'm just going to introduce the session, and then Leigha I get a very easy chairing job this time, because all I have to do is hand it over to Leigha, and off she goes. So we're very happy to have a group of people who are going to talk to us about their lived experience of being involved with Keyword Sign. I think you're all family members, and so it's really coming from that family member perspective, and we're excited to hear what you have to say. If you have questions, we'll come to questions close to the end, and the easiest way is to put up your hand using the two little icon thing that shows as a raised hand, and we'll then come to you one by one to let you ask questions. Over to you, Leigha.
Thank you so much, Andy, and welcome everybody. I'm just trying to see. Yes, we've got lots of people. That's wonderful. So thanks for joining us. So the idea of this session is about having an opportunity to really just chat with some parents who are living the use and the implementation of Keyword Sign on a daily basis. I'm one of those, but actually we're really here to hear from Liz Dove, who you'll see on the screen. Maybe you could just raise your hand, Liz, using the, yeah, great, we can see you. We've also got Meghan Gold, who unfortunately has camera issues. So Meghan, maybe you could just do one of the hand waves.
Sure.
So people can see where you're located.
I think it's down here. Yeah.
I've spotlighted all of you, so you should be in the center of the screen for everybody.
Excellent. Right. Thank you, Chloe. That's really good. And we've also got Lynette with us as well, who's also on audio. And the idea really for the session is to start out with quite an informal conversation, a little bit panel style, a little bit interview, but really opportunity for each of the guests to share their experience. We've got about half an hour or 25 minutes now, so we'll make sure that there's a good 10 minutes at least at the end of the session for you to ask questions and also engage with the presenters as well. So I thought we'd just start off by actually getting Liz, Lynette, and Meghan to introduce themselves and just tell us a little bit about your family and the person that you're using Keyword Sign with. Liz, maybe we could start with you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Liz. I am a mother of two boys. My eldest is 9, my youngest is 7. My 7-year-old Sammy is autistic and has a language disability. He was completely nonverbal until he was about 3.5. And since then, through Keyword Sign and repetition and now the use of Pod, he has a broader range of communication. So we're still working on, day to day, how was your day? But he's quite good at communicating his needs.
Wonderful. So. Thank you, Liz. Great. And we'll hear more about Sammy as the session goes on, I'm sure. Meghan, can you introduce us to yourself and your family?
Sure, thank you. My name's Meghan Sanchez. It was Meghan Gold, but people might have met me with different names. And I have 3 children. My husband and I have 3 children, Rosita, Raphael and Xavier. We first started using some Keyword Sign with our eldest daughter because I had a background of using it professionally. It just seemed really natural to keep using it with my own children. Then Raphael was born and he has Down syndrome, and my understanding of people with Down syndrome is their communication can vary and sign can have great benefit. So we really upped our use of sign after his birth. And then we also have Xavier, who is quite a natural signer. He uses it a lot alongside his speech, having kind of really been immersed in a bit of a keyword signing environment from when he was born. So yeah, that's our family life.
Lovely. Thank you, Meghan. Look forward to hearing more. And Lynette, tell us about yourself and your family.
Oh, hello, I'm Lynette, and my husband and I have 2 children who have Angelman syndrome. So it's a rare neurological disorder. They have no speech, epilepsy, balance motor disorder, behavioural disorder. We weren't diagnosed until Kalinda was 6 and my son Nixon was 2. So we started Keyword Sign at a very young age, with Kalinda in particular, to get some form of communication between us all.
Excellent. look forward to hearing more about your journey as a family with your children. So perhaps we can sort of start, right at the beginning, out of all the information out there around how to support communication and which method to use and when. How did you all arrive at the decision to start using keyword sign with your family? Maybe we can go back to you, Liz, and what was your early stage of your journey?
When our son was diagnosed, we were immediately thrusted into speech therapy, which was amazing but overwhelming. And they handed us a low-tech form of pod, which our son was not really mature enough for at that point in time. It was really clunky. My husband and I didn't know how to use it. We weren't getting anywhere except frustrated on all levels. And when I was growing up, we did foster care, disability specific, and we had a long-term foster situation where the young lady that lived with us used some form of sign, and so I thought, well, let's try sign. So we started with more because it's very basic and you can get a lot of needs met with more. And for about 6 months, just consistent more, and then one day it just clicked, and from then on we have used a mixture of multimodal communication between keyword sign and pod and verbal and non-verbal and gesture. It's just, yeah, lots of modelling.
It's exploded since then. Thanks, Liz.
Yes.
What about you, Megan? You've mentioned that you had a professional background, so you sort of started already knowing about this, but what was your decision making like?
Yeah, well, I think we actually used sign with my firstborn, who didn't have any diagnosis or differences in her communication development. And for me, I just knew this is going to be great for her communication development. It's very natural extension of her use of gesture as a small person. It will help her be able to communicate with me before she can speak. So we just started when she started eating. I thought, okay, about 6 months is the time she's going to be understanding a little bit more, enough to understand gestures. So again, we started with more because it's very motivating, and finished, and we could use them all through the day. So we could use them when we were having some food. We could use them when we were playing tickles. We could use them when we were reading a book or singing a song. And it just became kind of part of our day and part of our family and extended family. Kind of the motivation to continue it increased with my son, who has Down syndrome. And we hadn't used, so she was 2 rather, when he was born. And the day he was diagnosed, we hadn't used sign with our eldest for a little while because her speech had really taken over, her need for sign at that time. But part of our kind of understanding in the early days of his diagnosis was sign might be even more important to us than what it was. And so I said to my daughter, do you remember how we used to sign? Do you remember some of the signs? And I think I was holding our baby Raphael, maybe breastfeeding him at the time. So I said to her, can you do them? And I just listed various signs we use. And she, as a 2-year-old, remembered them from 6 months before and started showing me, oh yeah, we could use this, this and this. So it was really part of our family before that. And I think part of it was I wanted my daughter to understand people communicate differently, people have different situations, backgrounds, like to really have inclusion. I think I also bought her a book about Braille when she was little. And then, really having our son with Down syndrome meant we're going to adopt this again and it's going to be more natural for us. We had that opportunity. But really, there was nothing different about how we picked it up with him. When he was about 6 months, we increased our use again and we started with more and finished. And then as we could see his interests, we could add those. The ideal is to do a basic workshop, but if you don't have access to that, or you want to just kind of start slowly, there's lots of resources to kind of pick up a sign or two. And as your child begins to reply, you get very motivated to keep learning and adding signs. So that was kind of our early journey.
Fantastic. Thank you, Megan. And I love that emphasis sort of on that inclusive sort of communication environment right from the start with all those different methods and modes of communication. Beautiful. Lynette, what about you? It sounds like your diagnosis journey with your children was a little bit different, but you came in and started using keyword sign quite early anyway. So maybe you could tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so we started using keyword sign at around 12 months old. even though we didn't have a diagnosis, we were hooked up with a speech therapist at that stage. And because Kalinda was too young to sort of use any form of device, she did struggle with visuals as well at that stage, just being so young. So we just started the same as the other two, with more and finished in particular. And we just kept modelling. And I guess the hard thing there is we weren't getting anything back. So it actually took 12 months before Kalinda signed something back. But we could see that she was starting to understand and take interest and realise what we were doing. So we just sort of stuck at it and kept going. And at the stage when she did give us that first sign back, you could just see that excitement on her face as well, that she had been understood. And although she had a lot of difficulty with her fine motor skills, her sign was pretty loose, but we knew what it was, and we just continued from there and just slowly introduced signs to her. But the important thing for us was just to keep modelling.
Absolutely. Yes, you can't underestimate that, can you? I had a similar experience with my daughter. It took nearly 18 months for us to see that first sign come back. And I was thinking, I can't be the only speech pathologist signing to my child whose child does not sign back to her. But, you know, to persist through and have belief in what you know from the theory and the evidence was really important, and to keep going with that enthusiasm. And I can hear that from all of you coming through. So maybe if we explore a little bit more about, you know, what is it like on that day-to-day basis to be using sign? What were some of the things that contributed to the success, you know, for you in those early stages? And perhaps were there any challenges that arose for you? Maybe Liz, you could start us off again. So what worked well? What was challenging?
Modelling worked really well for us, just that constant repetition. My husband and I and our eldest son all, you know, modelling the signs that we really wanted Sammy to be using. I mean, it's frustrating when you don't get those instant results, and when we live in, you know, the world of instant gratification, it is disheartening. But I found that, you know, when you did get the results, it really did make you want to continue. But I found that with our son, when he was hitting those goals of, you know, finding the right sign and, you know, really process what he was wanting, if we gave him a lot of, you know, really good praise, like, yeah, you did it, that's the sign, oh, that's right, oh, you finished, or oh, you'd like more, or I can't think of any off the top of my head because I'm on the spot, but it really, you know, it grounded in for him that was what he desired, was, you know, to be able to feel good about his communication. So
That's lovely. And really validating for him that you know, that method of communication was wanted, it was encouraged. That sounds lovely. What about
absolutely.
you, Meghan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I would echo that the challenge can be just to continue going when you're not seeing someone reply. I think we've all spoken about that. But we often talk about, I think Andy said a long time ago, like, we speak to a child for 12 months before we expect them to speak back. So similarly, let's continue signing until we, for some people, we'll see them reply in sign, use it expressively. So I think the challenge was there. I think the successes are in, I think sign is caught more than taught. So actually having resources or having people around you to keep signing with, choosing your health professionals or teaching them, showing extended family members. I think that's been really helpful. And there's heaps of resources available now, like even heaps on your smartphone that can keep you going. I think keeping a bit of a breadth of signs, like you don't have to start with hundreds of signs, but keeping a few that you can see are actually connected to your child's interest. So for Raphael, like I said to so many parents professionally, they'll start with more and finish because they're motivating and they see them the most. My son's first sign was bunny. And so for some reason that was his interest. And so I think it was successful to really follow his interests. And another great interest of my son still is the wiggles. So, I knew the sign for dinosaur. So when he was 1, and also we sang a lot. He lives for music. So we used sign in his interests in nursery rhymes. So when he was 1, he was looking at Dorothy, maybe under about 2, looking at Dorothy the dinosaur. And he looked at me and he signed frog. Like, is that a frog? Like, we sing about frogs. And I could say, oh, no, it's not a frog. It's a dinosaur, because I knew the sign for dinosaur. And we could extend his language, but again, follow his interest and understand him. He had a way to ask me what's going on. So I think you have to summarise the challenges. If they're not replying quickly, the success would be to let it catch around you, like catch in your own life with your communication partners, your family, your people who are important, your health professionals around you, and follow their interests. That's been the most powerful way for us.
Thank you. And I love that phrase, caught, not taught. That's really powerful, I think. Lynette, what about you? What were some of the things that really worked well in your family, and perhaps some of the challenges that you came across?
Pretty much same as the other ladies, was modelling. What worked was the modelling, and also that understanding, like Meghan said, was, we speak to our children for 12 months before we get words back. So it was similar with the signing as well. And what worked well was having our speech pathologist, who was also a keyword sign presenter, having her support and knowledge and breaking it right down, and, letting us know that you didn't have to have that great knowledge of signing. You just had to start with a couple of signs and build, and definitely working with the interests of your kids. So we would read a lot of books. So a lot of Kalinda in particular signs were around animals and farm animals, because we're on a farm. And what I did find difficult, I guess, was that, first 12 months before, when you're not getting any sort of signs back. But also what I found hard was signing to my daughter in public, because I actually didn't want to be seen as, different. And I struggled with people looking at me and my daughter and son later on when he came along. So for me, I was actually quite a shy person. So it took me a long time to let that go and realise this isn't about me. They're not looking at me, and just embracing that. And I think my daughter could actually pick up on that too, because I noticed as she got older, in public, she wouldn't sign, and we would have this massive communication breakdown when we were in public. So I knew how I had to break down that wall for me to teach her that it is okay to, do this out in public.
And that's a really interesting perspective, and it sounds like an ongoing sort of process as well. As you've been talking, a number of you have sort of mentioned, about the importance of connecting and bringing others along, with your signing journey. I'm wondering if you could each talk a little bit about what that looked like. So maybe it was daycare or preschool or school or your extended family. What did you do to bring others with you on your signing journey? Liz, can we start with you?
So when our son was in kindergarten, his classroom teacher and his kinder inclusion support worker actually came along with me to a keyword sign basics day, which was just such a hoot. We had so much fun. So they were always super on board with it. The teacher was helping all of the other children in the class all participate in signing to just help and bolster Sammy's communication. My parents have been really supportive in trying to pick up signs where they can. They give respite one weekend a month, so it's important that they can also help Sammy communicate. But yeah, we've just been excuse me, from every angle of life. His communication has always been supported. He now goes to a special school and they use multimodal communication, so everything under the sun really, which is amazing.
Yeah, fantastic. What about you, Meghan? Things that have worked for you, bringing others along with you?
Yeah, I think it's, again, catching. So I think if they see us using it, that's been most effective. So, both my children's grandmothers, I think, were using sign a little bit with my eldest. So I think they've seen it. I mean, the ideal would be for a family to come along to a basic workshop, and NJS actually would support that. I think Keyword Sign Australia have done a seminar recently on how to really make the most of your NDIS funding and kind of access keyword sign workshops for a number of communication partners. But actually we haven't done that. So mostly it's been through us modelling it and them seeing it. I think then other people who have an interest in our children then have seen us use it and have asked questions. And I think sign is just so much more available than what it was, I don't know how long ago, but I have had, you know, people that from my husband's work. My husband works as a church minister, and so he's with a lot of younger people. He works with a lot of younger people, and they've come over and they said, oh, I looked this up on YouTube. Because being so digitally native, they're actually able to access it, and it is more visible given the pandemic, given bushfires being the press stuff being interpreted, given the wiggles, given like we watched Coda last night, like it's in the mainstream media, the use of sign. So I think that lowers barriers, and that's caused people to have access to find ways to view it, and then they actually brought it back to our family. Said, I'd like to learn, or how did you do that? I want to do it that way. So obviously that takes a particular kind of individual with a particular initiative to want to communicate with someone who's using keyword sign, but I think it's still possible. We've put resources like Scope have available these great posters of different signs. We've put those up in like shared spaces where my children are, so some in our church kind of creche and Sunday school areas. I've presented a little bit, just given a few signs to preschool teachers, but I think without that kind of direct modelling or seeing us use it with him and seeing him reply, it's actually been difficult. So I think it's, yeah, like with all respect to the preschool who were like, we love inclusion, we think it's good for everyone, like we welcome Raphael. I think it's been quite difficult for them to use sign. Even though I've given posters, I've given a short presentation, I've offered to do a basic workshop, I think they haven't seen me use it with him continually. They haven't then seen the power of him seeing it and replying. So I think that has been a barrier. I think the ideal would be for me to be able to be in the preschool environment with him regularly around different activities, and so they could see it. Obviously not possible during a pandemic. But yeah, I think there have been some of our barriers and some of our successes.
Thank you, Meghan. Some really nice insights there that build on Liz. Lynette, what about for you? Some particularly engaging sort of with maybe education sector or other community settings for your children.
Well, how we started to get other people involved with the keyword sign and supporting us was we organised a few keyword sign presentations over the years and got like childcare, the kindergarten, the local primary school, and then our high school involved in, which was really good. We opened it up to community members as well, because we're in a very small rural town where everybody knows everybody. So a lot of people knew us down the street and would often ask, oh, how can I say hello? And so we explain to them, show them, and I think that was really good. And it's gotten a little bit easier now that social media is used a lot more, especially having the Keyword Sign Australia Facebook page. I can share videos on how to do a sign, which I think video is a lot easier than the line drawings in some instances. And what we have struggled with over the years is then what's next after the basic keyword sign workshop. And being so rural, I guess we didn't really have, we're 130 kilometres away from our sort of nearest biggest centre. So to also get presenters to come up and do something with schools after the basic workshop was really difficult because, one, it was very costly, especially now with NDIS, to get them to travel up. But also, for schools to have like PD days and allow staff to be available, like staff and aides to be available to go to those sort of workshops. So, yeah, that's one of the challenges that I have found is just the availability to get people to come on board.
Absolutely, and likely to be an ongoing challenge, but intermixed with some successes along the way that we've heard from each of you. I'm conscious that session has gone past very, very quickly, but I wanted to give opportunity for some of the people joining us to actually ask you questions and have conversations themselves. I've seen Lydia with her hand up for a while now. So Lydia, did you want to ask anything of our panel members, Liz, Lynette or Meghan? Just need to come off mute there if you'd like to ask a question.
No, sorry. I think I accidentally put my hand up. So yeah, I have nothing. That's
No
okay.
worries.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's all right. Not a problem. What about you, Rebecca? Rebecca Brett, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. This is particularly for Lynette, but for you as well, Liz. How did you keep, you know, it must have been so hard signing for quite a while without anything coming back from your child. You know, how do you keep motivated as a parent to keep trying even when you're like, oh, is this not going to work? You know, I find it really hard where sometimes I'm recommending keyword sign or AAC, and it is really hard to keep going when you're not getting that positive reinforcement that it's working back. So what happened, or how did you keep motivated to keep trying?
I guess I tried to look with more than my eyes and my ears, which, you know, mightn't make sense. But so I would be signing to my daughter, you know, especially through things that she loved, like the reading or playing out on the swing and things like that. But looking for other things like body language. So I'm not getting a sign back from her, but I'm getting that subtle look from her eye, like of understanding. So I would look for those other little cues, and I think, oh wow, she is actually picking this up. And at times she wouldn't even look at me, but I just kept going because I knew myself. Just going back to speech, you know, kids will eventually talk once, you know, you keep modeling and modeling. So I just had to keep thinking that one day she's going to do this, and today could be the day. So I guess that's what made me keep doing it. I just kept thinking to myself, today could be the day. Today could be the day. And if it wasn't, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow's a new day and we're going to do it again. And I also looked for opportunities to then use keyword sign in different areas too, because I was focusing on books and out in the playground. But I thought, okay, if I'm not getting something back, how about I look for, you know, something else? Let's do something, you know, different. I'm just trying to think of something that's just not coming to me, but just changing the environment as well. And then I saw some different sort of cues coming in, sort of different involvement from her, like body language, leaning in. Sometimes I actually got, once her motor function developed, sometimes she would actually grab my hands, and I was like, wow, she's wanting me to sign it. Like, so my advice is just hang in there, because it will happen. It really will. We're proof of that.
Great advice, Lynette. It's such a journey in persistence, though, isn't it? And faith in many ways. It's lovely. I will keep going just because I think this is valuable. We're eating slightly into lunch, but you'll forgive us, I'm sure. Amelia has a question. Oh, sorry.
No, I said that's okay. I think you can just keep going, and people can head off to lunch if they want to, or stay if they want to ask questions.
Okay, thank you, Chloe. Amelia, I can see you've got your hand up. Do you have a question?
I do. Hello. I guess it was a question for everyone. So I'm a speech pathologist, and you know, I'll always try and take that multimodal approach and introduce keyword sign and pod or prolo or something else. But I found in general with most parents, they prefer keyword sign to other AAC options. Would you say that's been the case for you, or have any of you found that? Or, and I guess this is just a question, yeah, for everyone.
I know that initially for our family, we did favour keyword sign over anything else, and it's purely because I'm a very disorganised person, but I always have my hands. You know, you might leave the pod at home, you might forget to charge the iPad, you might, you know, run out the door without your bag, but I always had my hands, and it was much easier, I found, for us, that when I was able to get my son's attention, he'd always be more focused on my actions, you know, what was, you know, on the paper in front of him.
Yeah.
So that worked really well for us. But now that he's 7 and he doesn't sign as much as he used to, we're now leaning more towards a high-tech pod, because that is helping bolster his communication a little bit more than sign is now that
Yeah.
he's wanting to talk about things a lot more.
Great.
I think similarly for us, like we've trialed a little bit of aided language stimulation, and we've had a short trial of LAMP on a device, on an iPad and a device, and it was much slower. It requires more shifting of attention for my son. He wasn't as motivated. I think signing has a great familiarity with early language development because of the links to gesture. So I think my son's memory of that and just readiness for that at the moment, it's better. And also I had 3 children in 4 years, and so who knows where certain things go, like aided language boards. We had those for a while. I'm not sure exactly what corner of the house that is anymore. So for us, yeah, there was a compliment both to always available, your hands are always with you, and a right fit at this time with gesture for my son. I expect in the future, if his speech doesn't become clearer or become a main form of communication, that I would be looking into LAMP or something that is going to really boost literacy and be more intelligible to a broader community of people. But yeah, for now, they're the reasons we're sticking with sign.
Great. Thank you both. Great question. Thank you, Amelia. Joshua, you've got your hand up. Just come off mute there if you've got a question. That's it.
Hi, I'm a pre-service teacher, and the last week I've just worked in disability for the first time, which was great. But I found that working with kids, I would be told by 6 peers different ways to ask if they're thirsty. And so I'm just wondering, where's my best go-to source to get into keyword sign and everything?
Libby, do you want to field that one?
Well, Leigha, I think you're just as well equipped to answer as I am. Well, of course, I'd say go to the Keyword Sign Australia website. At the moment, it's a small interim site. I will be talking later today about what's coming soon and what we're planning for the future. But I think that's, that's more than what we had, which was a small page on the Scope website and a few other state-based websites. So that we know was very hard for people to find the best source of information. So at this point, I would go to the Keyword Sign Australia website, which is kwsa.com.au, and follow the socials, because we'll be letting you know when we're getting our brand new, much bigger, more comprehensive website out there. Yes, we're very excited and impatient, I know.
Thanks, Libby. I mean, Joshua, just from personal experience, thirsty can often be a little bit more of an abstract concept for people. So we often bring it right back to the concrete. Do you want a drink? And even if you just know the sign for drink, you can use that in lots of different ways, perhaps with different children, and see that as a consistent representation of that act of having a drink. So, that might help you. Thank you for your question. Dana, something from you for the panel.
My name's Dana. I'm actually a mother of a 20-year-old that uses keyword sign. I have been involved with keyword sign and was actually a presenter years ago before NDIS came in, and it got too hard for me in Newcastle. So she actually is still a keyword signer, and that is actually her preferred method of communication. So I just wanted to say, because a lot of the parents that are on today are younger kids, we are trying to go into communication devices, and what I would recommend for the parents on the panel is to look at that earlier than later as well, because as a 20-year-old who has been signing since 10 months, so we heard it, disorder actually meant that we knew that she was likely to have communication. So she severely got severe communication issues, and basically is predominantly non-verbal still at 20, but she was doing self-harming behaviors at around that 10 months to 18 months. So she started signing, but hers, unlike some, that was immediate. Within a week, we actually saw 70% of her behaviors decrease. Yeah, it was amazing to go through. And so that whole motivation, as the other parents have said, is a huge thing. So sometimes, and we only like them introduced a couple to start off with, but she picked them up literally the day we taught her, she learnt to. So for her, it was an obvious thing that that's what she needed at that time for her behaviour. And they were just eat, eat, drink, more, those kind of ones that obviously get a long way. So my thing to speech therapists and to the parents is get that multimodal communication going, because as parents say, hands are so much easier, and that's why she's chosen that to be her preferred method, is because she has it all the time. It's quicker. Especially keyword signing is quick, because she'll just use one or two. My barriers have basically been very similar to the other parents, but also as you get older, and her receptive communication is actually normal. So we talk to her like a normal 20-year-old, but obviously it's hard to then do keyword sign as a parent for that as well. So it's a challenge having it as their preferred method. So I think we're now trying to teach her when to use a device, and that, obviously that is, to me, a very important part of a multimodal approach for anyone that is communication diverse. So yeah, I just wanted to say hello to everyone, and just as a mother of a 20-year-old.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dana. Liz, Lynette or Megan, did you want to respond to anything Dana has said there?
I actually just wanted to add to that. We started using Proloquo to go with our daughter. I can't even remember how old she was. It was quite young, might have been even 2 or 3. And what we found too, adding that, was she actually got quite overwhelmed, and we persisted and persisted for probably 2 years with that, until we realised that, okay, maybe that form of high-tech AAC wasn't for her. So we sort of had to realise not to be afraid to then try something else, and then try something else, but to also bear in mind when you're trying something is to give it a good trial, because with a developmental delay, things can take a lot longer to pick up. So you sort of don't want to introduce them to something and you think that they're not responding to it and swap too quickly. So we actually are now using Snap and Core first, which is just changed to TD Snap. And it was perfect timing. Like Dana was saying, that we had a lot of behavioural issues coming out, and all, forms of behaviour come from communication. And we are absolutely loving it, because we are now getting to learn about our daughter, and her personality is coming out, because there's more things available to her, like her little quirks, and it is so beautiful. And what we're also finding too is more people are willing to communicate with her now, because they're finding it easier as well than keyword sign. But I do love keyword sign for, you can always go to it if your device is flat, etc. But yeah, I just wanted to add in there that it's a good point too, that if you try something, not to be disheartened if after a few years it's not working, because we've tried many things, but eventually you hit that sweet spot with them and you seem to get on a roll.
That's really, really good advice. And it highlights that your journey changes as your children change, and it's that responsiveness, isn't it, to their needs, and that openness, like you say, Lynette, to trying something. And maybe it won't work, but maybe it will, and giving it a good crack. So I am conscious of time, and I'm wondering, before we thank our panel and for everyone for being here, whether Liz, Lynette and Megan, you'd like to leave us with just one tip or thought or words of encouragement from your own experience with keyword sign. Liz, is there something you'd like to share?
Just be persistent and consistent. Just keep modelling, because the more you model, the quicker it's going to all settle and sink in. And also being super stubborn, also really helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your journey with Sammy and your family. Megan, what would you suggest for us?
Yeah, I think consistency, not perfection. So you don't have to know everything. You don't have to do everything perfectly all the time, but trying to do some consistently makes more difference. And also, I didn't realise how much it would mean for me with my son. Like, I had taught it to lots of parents. I'd taught keyword sign for 10 years, but I still didn't realise how much it unlocks my understanding of him, how it gives him a voice, how precious it is in our relationship. So I guess until you've lived that, you probably don't know. So give it a go and give your child that opportunity. Yeah.
Amazing. And thank you for being with us today and sharing about your beautiful 3 children, and particularly Raph, who's using his signs so gorgeously. And Lynette, something from you. What can we take away?
I'm a bit the same. I would say persistence and not focusing on perfection. Yeah, just also too, what I found was I really needed to stand back because you know your child best, and sometimes I would go and get what I knew she wanted. You know, and so I really had to step back and make that opportunity for my daughter and son to sign to me, because I was very quick to just go and get the drink that I knew that, you know, that they were wanting. So yeah, sometimes you just do have to stand back. And that was one thing I learned earlier on from our speech pathologist, was to count to 3. So if you sign something, count to 3, give them that opportunity, because we're in a fast-paced world and we just need to give them time. So to slow it down and enjoy it.
Fabulous, amazing advice and insights and generosity, you know, from our 3 panel members in sharing their lived experience today. Thank you so much to each of you. Thank you all for being here. We've still got 90 people on the call, which is amazing. Do go and have some lunch though, and I believe the Toucan room is open again for eating and mingling. And then we look forward to seeing everyone back for the afternoon session. Thank you.
Thank
See
you
you
so
later.
much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.